he wanted me to play the part, and then I didn't answer for a while, and so he thought I wasn't interested, therefore it went to someone else, and then I called back and fervently was like, what? And so he was like, oh, we can work it out. Luckily, literally, just kismetly, naturally, thank God, like the stars aligned, and for whatever reason, I was able to, both schedules aligned, and I ended up getting the part. And, you know, if I played the Joanne part, it would be interesting and fun, and I still would have done it. I would have catered to this movie. But it just would have been, like, fun. It would have been fun. It's just that I could kind of, sort of at the same time, play both parts if I was able to play Val, because the only way that to really interestingly and, like, knowingly convey something, I just coincidentally happened to be the perfect mouthpiece for some of the information that is conveyed by my character about another character. So if I played Chloe's part, it would have been sort of ironic and funny and interesting and whatever, but there was so many more layers to sort of look through with the other part that it was just better.
And it was also kind of an opportunity to vent a little bit about subjects that, right? I mean,
it would have been an opportunity to vent playing her part too,
right,
but
right.
It's just so much more fun to actually vent directly, like literally to be able to say the words
right.
was nice.
Stepping back for one moment, what is it about? I mean, you at this point can kind of pick your projects and size them and whatever for the most part. And why is it that time after time, with the exceptions of the Twilight movies and Snow White and the Huntsman, you have gravitated towards indies? These are, you know, craft services is not as good. There's a lot of things that are more challenging about doing them. But you come back. You did it before. You did it during, and you've done it since the Twilight movies. So what is it that draws you to them?
When you're trying to, like, figure out what you should be doing, how you should be spending your time, you know, it should never be something that you have to deliberate on a whole lot. And I've chosen each project I've ever been a part of, like, really instinctively. I've always thought so surely that I should be doing or involved in whichever given project I happen to be working on at the time. When it comes to, like, the size of stuff, everything that you look for in a bigger movie, or everything you look for in a smaller movie, is what you hope that the bigger movie has. It's like you want to work with people that just stir you up and just absolutely motivate you in the most innate, like just make you want to do anything. Every day you wake up, you just feel like you would give your all to something. And so if you don't have that on a bigger movie, you shouldn't be doing it. And it's just that they're more rare because it's again, it's like a bigger risk to take. And so I've only done a couple big ones because it only ever felt right to do those ones. And yeah.
And this one, I think, was it $6 million? It's a tiny movie, slow, like short schedule. In a lot of ways, it could only have been made in Europe, right? There's a lot of things about it that Hollywood just kind of runs in the other way from. Can you maybe talk about what some of those might be?
Yeah, I mean, the movie's like, you know, about two women sitting in a room talking to each other, which doesn't seem like on paper very exciting. Therefore, you like can't sell it. So, you know, Olivier's sort of weight and significance in Europe gave him the opportunity to have a really big budget. Like, considering what the movie's like, it should have been here. It'd be like $1 million movie. He did it this really classically, stunningly beautiful, indulgent way. And usually in the States, it would be like, you know, there are small movies, and those are like the raw, gritty, hard to tell story movies. And then a little bit up from there is like slightly more commercial, so we'll give you more money, but you have to be a little bit like more tame. So just the fact that, and not tame in terms of like something that's like shocking, but just tame in terms of like being different, or being something that's not easily digestible, or like, you know, easily, you can't put like, you can't sum it up very easily. So it just wouldn't happen here. You know, the fact that he's from there is actually like you would never be able to, yeah.
So you also said that in many of your movies you played very quiet, introspective characters. This is a character that has a lot to say, and you know, just as an actor, how did you feel about that in terms of the way you approach learning your part, learning your lines? I mean, there are some long, drawn-out exchanges here, and do you sit in the bathtub sort of just repeating them, or what's the technique?
That's what you would do.
That's what I would do. I know, good man.
The way that me and Juliet worked off each other was defined the dynamic that we had in the movie. We got lucky. I'm this sort of younger American perspective, and she's this established, really European, she works. Everything's like, her preparation is a huge part of what goes into doing a job for her, and I'm just like, I want everything to happen by accident. And so I didn't learn my lines. I never did. I'm really lucky. I loved the script, and so it's just easy for me to remember stuff that I like. I wouldn't look at a scene until the morning of, and I had Juliet chasing me around set trying to run lines with me, and I was like, don't ever say that to me again. I never want to hear that again until we are rolling camera. So I didn't approach it any differently. I didn't have anything to learn. I didn't have to bring anything that I didn't. I didn't have to. I didn't have to fabricate anything. It was all there. So I just trusted the process.
And the thought process behind that is just you don't want to be over prepared in a sense so that it feels rehearsed or it doesn't feel spontaneous.
Yeah, the first, you cannot beat that first experience. And even if you can, even if it's just my perception, even if it's just it didn't feel as good for me that time, that's what I want to be. There should be an experience that should be shared. If I'm really discovering something and stumbling upon some idea or some emotion or feeling that, maybe we knew about before we started the movie, but that was still naturally found, it's so much better than watching someone put something together, figure something out, and then show you what they've learned. You know what I mean? It's so I always feel like if we rehearse too much and I think about things too much, I just have to trust that initial burst of thought and energy that went into being inspired in the beginning, and just rely on that. And then when the day comes, you're going to feel it so much more instead of dissecting it and really memorizing it and learning it. It's like lightning in a bottle, whenever anything happens on set that's really just fantastic, and not in terms of being oh, that was good, but just something that feels great, something everyone learned something, everyone's moved by something genuinely. Nobody can take credit for that shit. Literally every single person that was there that day had something to do with the fact that it happened to go like that. And so you just can't rehearse that.
Yeah. So how does that work, though, for somebody like Juliet, who's she rehearsing with?
Her assistant.
So, and when you guys are working on this, when you were working on this movie, whether you're talking to Olivier or Juliet or whoever, did you have a target audience in mind? Are you saying, I hope these people see this movie and take X, Y, or Z away from it? Well, of course. But, who did you want to be first in line, and what did you want them to walk away from it thinking or doing differently? Because I get the sense that it was made for a reason.
Oh, man. I think people that are interested in watching others work, and I don't just mean for movies, but just watching anyone's compulsive process to get from point A to point B. Some people don't have that feeling when they wake up and they go yeah, okay, here I am, I go to my job and I live my life and I have my friends and whatever. And then there are some people that are kind of tortured by something in the most beautiful way. And I love movies about people making movies because I love that. And so I think first on the list for me would be those guys. But then further down the line from that, just just generally, I think giving something, sharing your art or sharing some expressive part of yourself takes a toll, and women are sensitive, and to see one woman at a certain stage of her life deal with another who's in a completely conversely different part of hers, and see that they can both really help each other and kind of enlighten each other in a certain way. And then also I love the fact that they can't either, because sometimes your perspective is one thing and you just can never change it, and that's just what it is because that's how you feel and you're never going to be able to see anything differently. I would say just like it's I don't want to like exclude or men who are interested in women, but it's just like really it's interesting to watch. It's just interesting to watch two really differently spirited women talk about the same thing. It's rare. You never get to see that. You know, it's rare to be able to watch like such an indulgent thought process, and there aren't too many people interested in watching stuff like that. So just anyone who would be interested in stuff like that is probably for you.
Well, it's sad because it actually happened more, I think, during Hollywood's golden age when you would have, you know, a movie like The Women or different ones where there's a lot of smart, developed female characters. Unfortunately, and I know this is like a big topic of discussion now, female directors are hard to come by, and parts for developed parts. I mean, it's a big topic of discussion now. As somebody who wants to direct down the road, are you optimistic about that? Is it, you know, are things getting better at all in your experience? You've worked with a lot of female directors.
I think there have been incredible movies made from a female perspective, like from forever, but that they're still incredibly rare. And the reason we talk about the ones that are good is because they're rare and, you know, they stick out. And, you know, that's hard for me to speak to because I've been so lucky and like so stimulated. I've never had a moment that I wasn't like, you know, and this sounds wanky. There's no way to make this sound not completely wanky. But I've never not had a moment where I wasn't completely challenged or I didn't have opportunities in front of me that were really interesting and where I wanted to go. And I think that in the times that I have had those moments, if you're bored and you don't know what to do and you can't really find like where to put your energy, everyone who I really love and admire in my life is like, you know, they're not the type of women to like sit around and talk about the fact there's nothing out for them. It's like, okay, well, go tell a story, dude. Go do something. And that sounds, again, really stupid because not all actors are going to be able to be in a position where they can just like go tell a story. This job requires a ton of other people and a ton of other really unique circumstances to actually do the job. I'm ass lucky, and so I have never experienced that. But I think it is getting better. I mean, there are like there are really empowered, interesting women saying stuff. Focus on them, be inspired by them, and stop complaining about the fact that you don't have those opportunities. Like, make them. That's gonna be controversial.
Well,
even if it's not about having them for like be huge and famous and like interesting, it's like if you're bored, then just don't be bored. Like, go, you know what I mean?
The barrier for entry is pretty low these days. You know, anybody can go and make a movie, it seems. But one thing that I think is interesting is that, well, the movie asks a lot of questions about, as you say, growing older in public eye in Hollywood, or rather in the entertainment industry.